Welcome to our notes on absolute value. Again, we're in Unit 1 in the integers unit. Today we're going to be talking about absolute value. So let's just go ahead and get started with a key idea. So some key ideas about absolute value. It measures the number's distance on a number line from 0. So it measures the number's distance from 0 on the number line. Distance can never be negative. So when you're driving places and you get there and then you drive home, you don't go negative miles. So if you drove 5 miles to school today, when you leave school, you're going to drive 5 miles home. You're not going to drive negative 5 miles home. So distance can never be negative. So we need to remember that when we're talking about absolute value, since absolute value measures distance on a number line, it cannot be negative. Absolute value cannot be negative because it measures distance, and distance can never be negative. We also need to remember that opposites have the same absolute value. So if you have 3 on one side of the number line and negative 3 on the other side of the number line, they are opposites and they're the same distance from 0. They are 3 spaces from 0 each, so they have the same absolute value. Let's go ahead and look at example A. So here we are at example A, and it says, what is the absolute value of negative 3? So these little bars here that we have on the side of the negative 3, those are our absolute value bars. When we see a number inside that absolute value, those bars, that means we're about to do some absolute value. So it's asking us for the absolute value of negative 3, and we're going to be talking about distance. So we want to know how far negative 3 is from 0 on our number line. So I've got a number line down there. I've got a dot on negative 3, so we're going to try and figure out how far it is from 0. So I've got 1, 2, 3 spaces until 0 on my number line. So my absolute value for negative 3 is 3. It is 3 spaces from 0. And again, distance cannot be negative. So my absolute value of negative 3 is going to be positive 3. Let's take a look at example B. So here we are at example B, and it says, what is the absolute value? So again, I've got 5 inside these little bars, and I know when I see those bars, I'm about to do some absolute value. So I need to figure out how far positive 5 is from 0 on my number line. So I'm going to start down here. I've got my number line. I've got a 5 on it. I'm going to go ahead and count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've got 5 spaces between 0 and 5. So I know my absolute value is 5. And again, I'm measuring distance, so distance cannot be negative. I'm not just going to take the opposite of 5 and figure out what that is. That's not what absolute value says. Absolute value says figure out the distance from 0, not just what is the opposite of this number. All right, let's go ahead and see you try one on your own. So here we are at practice number 1, and it says, what is the absolute value? You've got 2 problems there. Absolute value of negative 1, absolute value of 3. I want you to try these 2 problems on your own. You're going to pause the video now. Try the problems on your own, then press play again to see if you are right. How did you do? Were you able to get both questions correct? Did you notice that the negative 1 was 1 space away from 0 and the positive 3 was 3 spaces away from 0? Hopefully you did this one correctly. If not, go ahead and change your answers so they look like mine. And let's go ahead on to the next example. So example C is asking us which values are greater than 8. So it's not just asking us to figure out the absolute value this time. Once we figure out the absolute value of each of these problems, then we have a question to answer. So first we have to figure out the absolute values. So the absolute value of 6 is 6 spaces on the number line, so I know the absolute value of 6 is 6. Then negative 9, again, absolute value, I'm going to count the distance from 0. So how far is negative 9 from 0 on the number line? It's 9 spaces, again. Absolute value cannot be negative, distance cannot be negative, so I've got positive 9. 8, how far is that on my number line? It is 8. How far is 10 on my number line? That is 10 spaces, and I figured out all the absolute values. But that's not the question before me. The question before me says which questions or which problems have a value greater than 8. So 6. Is 6 greater than 8? Not last time I checked, so that is not a correct answer. So we're going to go ahead and X that out. Is 9 greater than 8? Yes, it is. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that one because that's correct. Is 10 greater than 8? Yes, 10 is greater than 8. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that. Now, the last question that I haven't dealt with yet is 8. Is 8 greater than 8? No. 8 is equal to 8, but it is not greater than. And it does not say greater than or equal to, it just says greater than. And since it is not greater than 8, it is not a correct answer. So I'm going to go ahead and put an X through that one because that one is not correct either. Now let's go ahead and take a look at example D. Here we are at example D. Example D says, which has the greatest absolute value? So we're going to be taking a look at our number line here. We have 4 animals on it, and we're trying to figure out which one has the greatest absolute value, or which one has the greatest distance from 0. Not which one is the largest positive value, which one has the greatest distance from 0. So if I'm taking a look, my cheetah and my whale are very close to 0. So those are probably not going to be the correct answers. So I can go ahead and draw an X through them. I know they're very close to 0, so they are not going to be right. My next choices are a zebra and a lion. Now the lion is pretty far away from 0, but the zebra is much further away from 0. And again, I'm not looking for the number with the largest value. The lion has the largest value. It is in the positive territory. However, I'm not talking about which one has the largest positive value. I'm looking for the one with the greatest absolute value, or the one that has the greatest distance from 0. And in that case, that is my zebra, because it is the furthest away from 0 on my number line. So zebra is the correct answer. Let's go ahead and try another practice problem. Here we are at practice number 2, and it says which has the greatest absolute value. So again, you've got a number line with 4 different animals on there. I want you to try this one on your own. You're going to go ahead and press pause on the video now, complete the problem on your own, then press play again to see if you are right. How did you do? Did you figure out that the answer was the fish? Or if you wrote Nemo, because it kind of looks like Nemo, that would be the correct answer, because that answer, the fish, is the furthest thing away from 0 out of all of the animals on the number line. Great. That brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will see you in the next one.